Hey guys, so about a year ago, I was watching a YouTube video. I believe it was April Wilkerson, and I don't remember what she was making, but she was freehanding with a router. It may have been a sign, I'm not sure, but I decided I wanted to give that a try. So I made a sign for the front of my house, and this is that sign. Um, the letters are in cursive for my last name. It's really hard to read, but that doesn't really matter. The important thing is it said 5899, and that's because I live off of a gravel shared driveway with 3 other people, and when somebody brings a package, they have trouble figuring out what house is what. I do have an address on my porch, but you have to drive all the way up to my house to see that. You can't see it just passing by and figure out what house to go with. So I decided that I would put a sign out by the driveway so that anybody passing would know that I'm 5899. So, as you can see, in a year, finish didn't hold up very well. I used polyurethane, and when I first did this, I was thinking that this, was as good as anything else. But after reading it, this is actually interior stuff, so it wasn't even the right stuff in the first place. I put 2 coats, but when I originally made this, I was going to make a video on it, but I kind of ran out of time. So what this video is I'm basically just gonna sand this down with an orbital sander. I'm hoping to get the dirt off and bring the wood back out, and then I'll go to Lowe's or something and get some, I guess, bar varnish or something that's rated for outside, and I'll repaint it. But since I didn't get to make the video, and since I'm working on this thing again, I figured I'd take the opportunity to kind of explain what I did. So this started off with, I guess, I don't know, what's that, like 3/4 by 3.5 inch pine boards, not pressure treated or anything like that, just regular boards. And I ran them on the joiner and the planer and got them square, glued them together. So I had a 7-inch wide board, and then I just traced the design, and that's kind of obvious. But for the lettering, I want to do something kind of fancy, and I was trying to figure out how to transfer the lettering to this. And what I ended up doing was using my 3D printer, and I printed these letters 100 thousandths tall, and then I just set them on the wood and traced around them, and that gave me something to use as a guide with the router, so I could freehand everything. And it was a lot of work, and I was kind of happy with it. So I hate that it's kind of not held up. So with any luck, we'll be able to save this. So anyway, that's what this video is going to be. I'm just going to sand it down and refinish it. So hopefully give this thing a second chance. I'm just going to start off with some 120 grit. See if we can clean this thing up. Alright, so that's cleaning up pretty nice so far. One thing I didn't mention is whenever I grouted this, I wanted to paint the background black, but I didn't want to paint the letters. I wanted the wood color to come through. So I was trying to paint just where I routed, which was almost impossible, especially like in the corners where it gets really tight. So what I ended up doing is a really bad job of painting it, but then I ran it through the planer and took off the top layer of paint, and that's what it ended up with. There's a little bit of bleeding and stuff around the edges, and yeah, it looks about the same as it did whenever it came out the planer. But anyway, that's what it turned out with, though. This is just some 220. Figure I'd go over it lightly. Smooth it out a little bit. Round over the corners a little bit. Alright, well that turned out pretty nice. That's not far from how it was when I first made it. It's definitely warped now. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, it kind of bowed, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to blow this out and see if I can get the back a little cleaner. Yeah, that looks as good as new. Well, we'll get some spar varnish or some outdoor polyurethane or whatever tomorrow. Just have to look at some labels and see. And put maybe 3 or 4 coats on it and give it another year and see how it turns out. Alright, so I went to Lowe's today and I got some of this. Spar urethane, says indoor outdoor. I read the instructions. It says recommends 4 coats. Saying with 220 grit in between coats, you can apply another coat every 2 hours and to mix well before use. So I'm going to give this a try. So I got these pieces of wood with finishing nails in it. I kind of keep them around when I'm doing this kind of stuff, so this way I can paint both sides. Just set the painted side down onto the nails, and that way it doesn't disrupt the wet paint as much. Of course, it'd be better to let each side dry before you flip it, but I'm not going to do that. You can do that if you want. It's actually pretty difficult to put thin coats with the engraving in the router. So the sign's had a couple of days to dry, so I think it's ready to install back in the yard. Here are my plated eye bolts and S-hooks, I guess they're called, next to some standard zinc ones. The ones that are actually on the wood that it's hanging from broke whenever I tried to take them out. So I got some new zinc ones for that, which is cool because that'll give us a comparison between corrosion resistance between the ones I plated and a standard zinc plated eye bolt. So you can see the color difference. It's pretty zinc. I mean the nickel's a lot darker than the zinc. Zinc's really shiny. This was plated, of course, over pitted rusted metal, so I imagine that's why it's not shiny. I didn't try to polish it or anything, but anyways, we're gonna put these into the sign and then take it out into the yard and hang it back up, and I'll take a picture of it out in the yard so you can see the finished product.